get started with this 11 a.m. session, The Crossing at KU Innovation Park, how engineering, architecture, and construction partners are helping KU Endowment transform an underutilized part of the West Campus into a connected and transformational innovation park. We have a handful of speakers today. Arun, would you rather introduce them yourself, or do you want me to do the whole introduction? I'm fine with either.
Go for it, Lisa.
All right, so Arun Mohabian, oh gosh, I'm gonna ruin all you guys' names, I'm so sorry. He'll be facilitating the team presenting for the crossings at KU. And in addition to him, we have Monty Sukup, who's the project manager and KU Endowment's owners representative. Kevin Harden is the project architect for the crossings at KU. Sasan Mohobian is the lead civil engineer for the crossings at KU. And Murdad Gavriche is the lead traffic engineer for the crossings at KU. I'm going to turn it over to you all to talk about this great project. We're excited about hearing it.
Thank you, Lisa. Appreciate the introduction. And I think you did pretty good. I give you like a 9 out of 10 on the pronunciation.
I will accept that.
Yeah. By the second Mohobian, you nailed it. That was great. Well, my name is Aram. I'm with SK Design Group, and we are thankful for this opportunity to talk about this exciting project we're doing just on the west side of campus. We are partnering with KU Endowment, who's really our customer, who's the main client driving this project. Monty's here to talk about it a little bit more in detail. But, you know, we couldn't have the full team with us this morning. There are a lot of folks, a lot of companies involved in making this project happen. This is just a handful of us that you could say volunteered to talk about it. So we've got SK Design Group, MGS, Gastinger Walker, and of course the endowment represented this morning. But in addition to that, we've got Gensler, Vireo, Marlin Construction, Area Real Estate, IMEG, Geotechnology Group, Terra Technologies, Brailsford and Dunleavy. This is a very large project team coming together to make this thing happen. And before I turn it over to Monty, I just want to just briefly, I guess, explain why we're presenting this today at the Innovation Summit. If we look up the definition of the word innovate, it means to take something established and make it new. And I think that's exactly what we're doing with the west side of campus. So with that, I'll just pass it over to Monty with KU Endowment.
Thank you, Aram. So I'm going to orient you a little bit. This is the road on the south side here is Clinton Parkway, and the north-south road kind of in the upper right-hand side is Iowa Street. So in 1942, KU Endowment purchased this quarter section of around 160 acres. And since then, it's had, you know, multiple uses, including fish hatchery, multiple pharmaceutical research, and things like that. So, but most recently, it's been pharmaceutical research for the university. So 2 years ago, but there's probably 90 acres of that, or 100 acres of that, that's really undeveloped, if you will. So 2 years ago, we started asking the question, you know, how can we leverage this asset to benefit the university? And we ultimately hired Brailsford and Dunleavy, who specializes in campus edge development all across the country. With them, we went through really about an 18-month process that involved the city, the university, the Chamber of Commerce, and our own trustees of KU Endowment to look at what it is that we could do here. So if you could go to the next slide, the outcome of that process was really that we wanted to attract companies and researchers and entrepreneurs that align with KU's strengths and the opportunities we have at the university with existing research, enhancing KU's research portfolio, which in turn then strengthens our R1AU standing, which if you're not familiar with that, it's the 60 top research universities in the United States, both public and private. And we've been part of that group since the turn of the century in 1900s. So the key outcomes for this development really were to be closely tied to KU's brand, control the edge condition, placemaking. You know, there was a significant opportunity in the market to respond to our constituents, and then obviously effectively balance its impact with the financial performance of the development. So with that, once we had this in mind, then we went out and hired a master planning architect, Gastinger Walker. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kevin.
Thanks, Monty.
Yeah.
So what we were charged to do from Endowment is to create, take the existing infrastructure of the university on West Campus that was already there in place, but then give it a vision for the next 25 years. And one of the things that we talked about most was about the history of research parks and what's going on, and how do we develop a research park to create it in a way that allows for innovation to flourish in much broader sense than what you would typically see. And most research parks in the past have been more what you see here on the left, an arborescent kind of identity where you would find a building sitting by itself as an individual tree and sit there, and everything would happen internally with that. But what we wanted to do is do something that's more like a rhizome, which all of the entities within it are more connected. And the idea is that we would create a lot of synergy, a lot of collaboration, a lot of excitement amongst all those different things that were going on. So if we go to the next slide and look at that, the information then, as you look at that, if a typical research park, it's really that one thing that you would see, that tree that stood alone, it was a monoculture. It was basically an office building, a parking lot, and some amenities that would stay within that building, and it would be there by itself. And if you looked at the current location of West Campus, the way it was, is that's kind of how it was set up. And so what we wanted to do is change that whole dynamic that was going on. So we really wanted to create a live, work, learn, play environment and everything that was tied to that, so that as individuals came into West Campus, they would see that synergy and excitement, and the whole idea of evolving around innovation was there, that we would allow this whole collective environment to allow for serendipitous collisions of people in different aspects of their daily life. So if it was when they were working out in the morning at a fitness center, having coffee on their way to work, or if it was other things that were going on throughout the day or the weekend, that they would have that ability to really allow this creative environment to continue. So what we wanted to do is allow all these different opportunities for entertainment, residential, convenience, fitness, dining, as it's all listed here, all to create this ecosystem that was going on with the park. And so we go to the next slide and talk about that. So here are the existing site conditions, as you can see on the left in the aerial photograph that's there. All of the buildings that were built within Becker Drive, which is the circle drive that goes around the middle of it, all the buildings were contained there, all mostly university buildings. And then over to the left side of the slide, you can see where they started to develop research buildings. And so the two white buildings on the upper north were being used and developed on that side. And so the development groups within the aspects of research that was going on, they almost again were looking at each of their individual buildings and saying, okay, well, we have another group of entities. They want to be creative and innovative within their building, so they just continue to build another building. And so we said, hold on, time out. Let's figure out a better way to do this. And so the plan on the left is really the beginning of the first phase. And so this starts to show along 21st Street, which is the center street, becomes that catalyst to allow things to grow from that point there. And so what we're doing is tying 21st Street into the existing network of streets and buildings, and allowing those to connect, so that we would allow on the north side of 21st Street in this location, 2 innovation buildings. And then on the south side, we are putting housing, retail, other kinds of support functions. We have a grocery store that's going on, and some other shops that are being looked at right now. So we're working with areas, our asset developer, as well as Brailsford Dunleavy, is to try to bring each of those individuals into the space. And then over on the far left side is we have a daycare center that would also support individuals that are working there. And then along Iowa Street, further north of 21st, is some other land that we had available that we could use to enhance the development, the financial side of it, and bring it in there to continue to grow the space. So big picture, this is just the beginning of phase 1. This is really for the next 3 to 5 years. And then as you start to see these other buildings, you can start to see the mixed use of each one of those. And so you might have the housing side will have retail underneath it, the research buildings that are shown, the same thing. So we have this synergy of going on and allow this 21st Street appearance to come about. in the first programming phase, we're somewhere around 500,000 square feet of space that will be in the programmed areas between the two. Next slide. And I think that kind of gives you an overall big picture. And this starts to show the vision on the far left. And I'll let Sasan kind of dive into the civil engineering aspects of it.
Thank you, Kevin. We're very excited about this project. This is going to be a beautiful development that people can live in, play in, dine, and research, work. Everything that you can think of can happen in this development. We were hired to initially help with the master plan of the grading and utilities for the entire development, which is roughly 150 acres. And we're now in the process of designing the first phase, which is roughly 45 acres of that. The vision for this development is 0 setback lots. KU Endowment is constructing the roadway network, the utilities, and then we're creating parcels for asset developers to come in and develop within those lots. Endowment is working with several developers to build facilities, apartments, grocery store, etc. in those lots. The 0 setback causes some challenges for us as civil engineers, because there's really no back to these buildings either. The buildings are fronting all 4 sides of the parcels. So all the utilities would have to be constructed within the right of way. We have gone through extensive coordination with all the utility companies to assign them precise horizontal and vertical geometry through the roadway network for their utilities so that we do not have any conflicts during construction. As a matter of fact, most of the utilities will be constructed, including the telecom and the conduits for power, by our contractor under this contract. The roadways will be about 1 mile of roadways in phase 1, and we will have about 1.5 miles of sanitary sewers. We're actually extending the sanitary sewer about 3/4 of a mile downstream of our property to the south and west. The existing sewer system was inadequate. We went through an extensive analysis of the existing sewer system. It was inadequate. We're replacing the existing system. We're actually boring underneath Clinton Parkway to get across to the south side, where there are a couple of box culverts that we have to bore under. Then we extend over to the west, and then when we get to the south side of Clinton Parkway, we are actually replacing a 24-inch line with a 36-inch line for future development that will occur in the basin for the sanitary sewer. The project also includes a beautiful greenway that connects the existing pond north of Becker Drive, which is the circle that we were talking about earlier, that encompasses the existing research facilities, to a new pond that we're building on the south side of the development, just north of Clinton Parkway, which is a 3.5-acre pond with beautiful trails going around it with overlook areas. It's going to be a beautiful development, and walking trails, everything for as far as amenities go for the people in this development. The pond required jurisdictional, we affected jurisdictional waters, and we're working with the Corps of Engineers to get an individual permit for that portion of the project. We're also improving the intersection of Iowa and 21st Street. We're providing signalization at that location. This project required a lot of coordination with the utility companies. I mentioned that earlier. We worked with Evergy. Next slide, please. We worked with Evergy extensively for their for power. We are removing the overhead power lines on the west side of Iowa and doing all underground service and placing equipment all around the development for serving the proposed development. We worked with KU. In addition to all the private utilities, we had to also deal with the utilities that belong to KU. This development is separate from KU's property, and all the utilities that serve KU facilities are separate from the utilities that serve this development. Because we were working in existing areas, we had to work closely with the existing utilities that are out there that serve the existing facilities for KU. We actually raised the grade by a couple feet in many areas to avoid costly relocation of telecom, power, and water that serve the existing KU facilities. We worked closely with City of Lawrence on water and sewer. We worked with AT&T, Midco, and gas company to provide services for them. In addition to that, we had to deal with many jurisdictional entities. And if you could go to the next slide, please.
Hassan, before I do, can you turn your annotations off? It keeps carrying over to the next slide.
Sorry about that. I thought I did.
There we go.
Sorry about that. Our slides are prettier than that. The City of Lawrence, I mentioned, Chamber of Commerce, University of Kansas, KU Research. We've worked with Kansas Department of Health and Environment. The KDOT is involved with the work on Iowa. We've worked with KU Transportation Services for buses serving this development. Obviously, KU Innovation Park and U.S. Army Corps of Engineers for the jurisdictional waters. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Mehrdad to talk about the traffic study that was done for this project.
Thank you, Sasan, and good morning, everyone. This is, as Sasan mentioned, this is a very exciting project, and I'm fortunate to be part of the team. Just like any other projects, any development would have some impact on the roadway network surrounding the project site. And this is no exception. With the size and magnitude of this project being a mixed-use development, we had to actually collect a lot of data and work with both KDOT and the City of Lawrence to scope the project and establish the study area for this impact study. Just like any other projects, traffic impact study for this project is one of the critical components of the project, as all the road users use the street network. They're going to be impacted by the traffic in and out of this project site. Given the mixed use of this development, some of the traffic would be an internal trip captures within the different components of the project, but a big portion of it would be external, going in and out of the site using the street network, mainly Iowa Street and Clinton Parkway. Just like any other traffic studies, we had to collaborate with the city and state DOT to establish the study area. The red dots you see on the right-hand side of the slides are the intersections identified by both the project team and also the local agencies, meaning the city and KDOT. There's about 14 different locations identified, plus there are a few other ones that are internal to the site that are not shown on this slide because of the change in the roadway layout. What we did, we basically started data collection after the study area was established. Data collection included traffic volumes during the peak hours of a typical weekday, mainly from 7 to 9 in the morning and 4 to 6 in the afternoon. We got information on the traffic signal timings and phasings along Iowa Street and along Clinton Parkway. That posed some challenges as all the signals in the city are actually coordinated to make the traffic move more efficiently. And since we are adding a signal at 21st and Iowa, this posed some challenges, and we've been working through those challenges with both KDOT and the city. In addition to those, we also collected some crash data for Iowa Street in the vicinity of the 21st Street to see if a signal actually is warranted or not, in addition to the volumes that we had. And signal timing, as I mentioned, was collected. Then once we did that, we started evaluating the existing conditions of the roadway network in the area to see if there's any deficiencies under the existing conditions and what can be done to mitigate those deficiencies. And doing so, we ran some volume capacity analysis. We did some signal warrant analysis and established influence areas for these intersections in this study area to see where our access points are interfering with the influence areas and how that would impact the operation of the intersections in this study area. Then we went through trip generation analysis and distributed those trips on the street network and assigned those to those individual intersections. And we ran analysis again to see what the impact is for this development on these intersections and came up with some mitigation measures. The primary mitigation measures is to have a signal at 21st Street and Iowa, in addition to widening the 21st Street both on west side and east side. And then internally, we also recommended some turn lanes on 21st Street extension to the west, and plus some traffic control devices that need to be established for individual intersections. As part of any traffic study, we also look at all the other approved projects in the area to see what the cumulative impact of this project plus other approved projects in the area would be. In this case, from the information we obtained from the city, there is no other development in the area, so that part of the analysis was skipped. We also looked at the future traffic condition for target year 2040 to see what needs to be done and considered in the long-term mitigation measures for the area. There would be some delay to some of these intersections, especially along Iowa Street, that we need to work with the city and their consultants to coordinate these signals accordingly to make sure that the traffic moves efficiently throughout the system, and yet not to impose excessive delay to side traffics, mainly on 19th Street and 21st Street. There seemed to be no evidence of any deficiencies along Clinton Parkway at those two intersections with Lawrence Avenue and Crestline Road, because they seem to have ample reserve capacity under the existing conditions to handle the traffic coming out of this development. With that, I guess I'm going to turn it over to Aram to wrap the session up for us. Again, thank you for the opportunity.
Thanks, Mehrdad. Thank you, team. I think, we're a little bit over on time, so I'll just be really quick with this last slide. The innovation of this project, I think it comes in twofold. To reiterate what we said at the beginning, we're innovating this existing property for the endowment and for the community, for the research community, and for the people of Lawrence. This will really improve that entire property on the west side of Iowa. But then there's also innovation in the fact that this team that you've seen, there's so many different pieces. We've got architects and master planners, civil engineers, asset developers, environmental, traffic, construction, landscape, you name it. We've got to coordinate schedules, designs, plans. We've got to sequence this thing, all such that we can really improve the property without adversely affecting or interrupting the current operations, both for KU Transit and as well as other existing users of the facilities and the roadways. So this is an exciting project. We appreciate the opportunity to share this with you. And I guess now we'll just leave it on this beautiful picture of what this thing will look like and leave it open for questions.
Thank you, Aram. We have a few questions. The first one is from Greg York. Have there been any consultations to ensure ADA compliance, or will that occur closer to construction time?
Sasan, you're on mute.
If I may take that, the roadways, the intersections that we have control over have all been designed for ADA compliance. Each of the developments that will occur on the parcels will be required to have ADA compliance. All of the trails and sidewalks that we're building will be compliant as well.
I might add to that, that the Jayhawk Trail, you saw the trail that goes through the Greenway. The Jayhawk Trail is an ADA compliant pathway through the campus, all the way up the hill. So that also then connects to the city's Lawrence Loop Trail system, which is like a, I don't know, I think 20 some, give or take 20 miles of ADA compliant trail in the city. So we're connecting a lot of existing infrastructure as well with this.
Next question, a new transit transfer hub is being planned for Iowa and Clinton near this area. How is this being tied in?
So that's KU Endowment's involved in that project as well as the landowner for that project. It happens to be on 15th and Crestline, so it will connect through streets, but it's three-quarters of a mile away from this development, but it is connected with the internal streets on this parcel. And the bus system there's two bus stops along 21st Street within our development that is in that bus system.
Excellent, thank you. I don't see any other questions. Thank you to the team, to SK Design and their colleagues. This is a really exciting project. And we'll see you all at our last session of the day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.